program, so students aren't left going home to a single-parent household or with no parents there because they can't stay in school anymore. Okay, when I was in school, that was my saving grace. When I went home from school, I didn't know what to do with myself. I could have gotten into a lot of trouble, but I didn't. When I started getting involved in school with mentorship opportunities, I was much better off. So reallocate those funds to helping children first.
2 minutes. Try to do this in 2 minutes. Okay, as for the city budget, the first thing we need to do with the city budget is pass it on time. Everybody stop bickering, get out of your heads, get out of your ego, pass it on time. Right now, we have 50 brand new police cars sitting and waiting for the new budget to pass. That's unacceptable. Our police officers only have 2 sets of uniforms and they're washing them every other day. Unacceptable. Our fire department only has 2 sets of turnout gear. Unacceptable. So my main thing with the budget is everybody get out of their head, read it, talk to people, figure out what you need to do and pass it on time. As for discretionary funds, what people don't seem to understand is the counselors have more money at their disposal than just discretionary funds. They have public improvement funds, discretionary funds, and they have a budget for the office itself. If I'm counselor, discretionary spending as it comes through will be split up evenly, a portion among all the neighborhoods, including the 2 that are only partials. We will also give partial payments to the schools in our district. The rest of the funds will be up for projects such as paving or whatever it is that needs to be done around the district, and it will be done on a grant basis. Submit a proposal, and up to a certain amount will be awarded. But every single dollar that is spent out of the District 2 office will be placed on the website for everybody to see. The bottom line is, it's your money, it's our money, and everybody needs to know where it is and where it's going at all times. Thank you.
All right, so with one of the biggest budgets that we've ever seen, there are definitely some places where we can cut back and we can allocate that money into schools, into educational after-school programs, and as far as discretionary funding is concerned, I believe that it's important that that money goes back into the neighborhoods. I'm not exactly sure if you all have been in the Brown Springs area, but there's an eco park. And if you've seen it, the lot is overgrown, and all you can see is the pavilion part. So I definitely, and although it isn't a city park, it is a community park, and that's a place where you want people to be proud to live, and you want people to be able to go and to congregate and to fellowship. So that's just one example of how we can place that money back into neighborhoods so that we can beautify our neighborhoods and have a place that we're all proud of.
Thank you. Same question? Yes, sir. All right. When it comes to the budget, the $428 million that we currently have allocated, that's a lot of money. That is a lot of dough. And we could do a lot of good for our city. I believe it's not being allocated appropriately. Since I've worked so many years in the nonprofit sector, having to take money and use it in a frugal manner, just like we use it in our homes, making sure that we got enough funds to cover the most basic needs that we have without splurging. We need to do the same thing on the city level. We need to make sure that every dollar, every dime, every penny is going towards meeting the needs of the people that make up this city. It's not the brick and mortar that's most important. What's most important is the people, and that's all of the people, all throughout the city. In District 2, we need to focus more on the people and less on things that doesn't matter, like traveling places you don't need to go, and using money that you don't need to use to do that, where that money can be used to address some basic needs right here at home. As the council of District 2, I would promise you, I would never splurge or use any money outside of what's necessary to do the business of the council, to do the business as your representative. And therefore, I will keep my eyes on the budget and make sure every dime that's allocated goes where it needs to go. Now, when it comes to things like weed abatement, millions of dollars are being spent just cutting grass. And from what I heard from city leaders, They only get a chance to cut it twice during the summer season when the grass is growing. But you're spending about $6 million toward that effort. Now, I don't know about you, but I cut my grass every other week, and it's high, even at that level.
2 minutes.
So we're looking at weeds all of the time, yet we're spending $6 million on it. Thank you.
Guys, we want to keep it to 2 minutes, I'm sorry. The reason is,
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna take my spiel just a little further. One of the candidates earlier said, pass the budget on time. May 20th is on time. That's when the mayor presents his budget for approval. Through this document, this is the Bible. Once we understand the rules of this Mayor Council Act of 1955, and you become familiar with it, then you will know how to respond, how to get things done. Now, for every week that the budget is not approved, we have to revert back to last year's budget. That's unnecessary. This is unnecessary. Now, you know where my money is going to go. What kind of mountain? Ruffner Mountain. Of course, and if there are any schools in my district, I will not hesitate. If they're in trouble, they need a program for a student or a set of students, just tell me what you need.
Putnam needs air conditioning.
Oh, that goes first, especially. Thank you. But my thing is, there's always a usage, and transparency will be the key. Anything that I spend money on, it will be in my district. I would love to go to 2468, but my district is District 2. And I need to get there to do something. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Williams. I think that the recent city budget is a little bit misguided. You know, the city has a role. Municipal government is the most local form of government there is. And there's three things that it should be doing, and it should be doing really well. The first is public safety, the second is education, and the third is our infrastructure. Those are not in any particular order, but those are the three most basic forms of government that a local government does, and we're not doing a good job of any of the three. We're consistently one of the top most 10 dangerous cities. I don't think that we could say that our school system is as good as some other ones. And I don't think that anyone that drove here tonight would say that our streets are in good condition. So I think that the budget is misguided. In terms of discretionary funds, I think that those funds are the neighborhood funds. I think that the neighborhood should decide how those funds are spent. And the neighborhood should have an input on it. I don't think that they should be spent on parties. I don't think that they should go to organizations period. And I think that it should be up to each neighborhood association and how they want to split their fair share of the discretionary funds. Councilwoman Valerie Abbott has done that throughout her tenure as councilwoman, and it has been very successful. You see in District 3 a lot of public improvements from her use of her discretionary funds, giving it back to the neighborhoods for infrastructure improvements.
Just like Hunter stated, I think that the budget should be used to address infrastructure, education, and public safety, but I also think should be geared towards things that improve the quality of life for Birmingham citizens. As a social worker, I have the opportunity to see people that they go with their basic needs being unmet. Whereas, we have cars, houses, they go without all of that. So I think that it's our responsibility to kind of make sure resources are in place to address those things. And when it comes to the discretionary spending, for me, I would half it to the neighborhoods, and then if there's an organization that's doing great work, and by great work I mean you can prove great work, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of nonprofit organizations that, they have great missions, but they funnel the money through the same people. And for me, if you're petitioning the councilman's office for, funds, then you need to show me that, you're doing the work that you say you're doing.
Yeah.
So I've been fighting with this budget for 8 years, which is where I came up, looking, when I went to Denver this year, and I learned from the NLC concerning priority-based budgeting, which is actually a program that I negotiated between the council and the mayor, which is basically to rip the budget apart, to rip every department apart, find where all the hidden money is, find where the waste is, and start streamlining the budget. With that being said, let me just interject here, because I don't understand how the rebuttal would work, and there's a lot of statements that I would love to rebut, just because of the position I'm in. The budget this year has not been passed because the council president and the chair of the finance committee won't move anything forward. However, I have submitted my budget proposal, and what it does under priority-based budgeting, there's only 8 departments we need to focus most of our funds on: fire and police, public works, planning, engineering, and permitting. They're the people who do the infrastructure work throughout the city, including the handicap walkways in the Southeast Lake area. Municipal court and traffic engineering. They're the ones who do the stoplights and the stop signs. The other 2 departments that are most intrinsic, that are always cut by the council, always, are libraries and parks and recreation. So this time, I just didn't care about compromising and working with others. What I did is I presented a budget proposal. It's on the council, or it will be after this weekend, on the council website, or on the District 2 council website, that shows exactly what the proposal was. The way that I re-engineered the budget, it actually saved a bit of money, and that is going to, I gave it back to the council to hopefully put back into paving projects. As far as discretionary cannot be given to individuals. I have also a spreadsheet in how I've spent this. This has been spent on nonprofits that do direct services to to the communities that we're in, as well as the schools. And that's $30,000 to the schools.
Thank you. Okay, my next question is, okay, Ms. Rafferty, we're going to start with you on your end.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, how do you plan to work with neighborhood associations in your district?
Work with neighborhood associations. So you want to know how I've been doing it? Because I'm kind of liking what we do twice a year is we have met with the neighborhood officers to educate them best on how to run their neighborhood association. Neighborhood associations are more like homeowners associations. That's where the residents get together and decide what they want, and there's administrative employees to deal with all of the complaints. They're supposed to be present. Also, we have a council representative at each of these meetings. We respond to all of the problems or the issues that are brought forward during the neighborhood association meeting. We also partner funding with neighborhood association meetings. With the Eastwood, as well as the Crestline neighborhood, we partnered on a floodplain study that came out and unjustly increased homeowner insurance by almost $2 million a year. We partnered, funded with that, and got all of that wiped out, or the majority of the homes moved from the floodplain. Also, we partnered on demolition costs, where the neighborhood paid a portion in our office, making our PIC money go further, and we demolished houses in the neighborhoods where they only had 1 house or 2 blighted houses, the Crestline neighborhood in particular. Other neighborhoods, the 1 neighborhood or the 2 neighborhoods we didn't invest, we didn't do that partnership with, were Brown Springs and Southeast Lake, but that was because the administration chose to put all of their demolition money from the budget into the Southeast Lake and the Brown Springs neighborhood. So we were meeting a need that was unmet in the other 8 neighborhoods in the district. So we also partnered with Roebuck Springs neighborhood neighborhood association in acquiring a generator. I believe in partnership funding programs to initiate improvements to the community, rather than all in all trying to just get one entity to do it all, because I don't have enough money to completely go around, but if we partner with it, we can spread it around through the whole district.
Mr. Murphy, we're gonna ask you that same question.
One of the things is by being present at the neighborhood meetings. It's one thing to get information from an assistant or somebody that is representing you, but it's another thing to hear firsthand. So I'll definitely have all the neighborhood presidents, they will have my contact information so they can reach me when concerns come about. And like I said, I have a history of getting it done, so I would just like to get it done.
All right, and, Mr. Williams, we ask you the same question, and in fact, we'll ask both Williams the same question. Time permits.
All right. You know, like I said when I introduced myself, I'm the Crestline Neighborhood Association president. I think that that it's essential to understand what's going on in each of your neighborhoods. I think that, like Mr. Murphy just said, showing up to the actual neighborhood association meetings is important, and that is how you get a grasp of what is actually going on in the neighborhood. I don't like the idea, the partnership idea that was recently talked about, because the partnership ended up making us use our neighborhood discretionary funds to demolish a house in our neighborhood, which really is the city's responsibility. There's a land bank authority for it, and that is being done across the city, where those neighborhoods are not having to pay to demolish blighted houses from their neighborhood association funds. So I think that showing up to the neighborhood association meetings and understanding what's going on is really the key to knowing what's going on in the neighborhood.
I purchased my house about 17 years ago, and I moved in attending neighborhood meetings. Since I announced this new venture of mine, I've been traveling to other neighborhood association meetings, and I found out that we all have similar problems. Therefore, we have similar solutions. We just have to share those solutions, discuss them. What worked in one neighborhood may not work in another. Okay? Now, the neighborhood that I live in, it's mostly single-family homes. There are some in my district, Gate City is right across the street, but I have concern for neighborhoods like that. Why? Why do we have to stoop so low to say they cannot live any better? That's a lie. They can. We've got to find resources to help our sisters and our brothers of poverty. That can happen to me. I may need some help. Mr. Murphy, I want you to say, Tyrone out here.
I got you.
Okay.
I got you.
You'll never know. Just a kind word can do it. Your neighborhoods, most of us, that's the only solutions we have. So let's pull together and make it work.
10 seconds.
Tyrone.
Okay, Mr. Conway, we start. Yeah, let's go to the move. Mr. Conway, we start with a new question for the next 4. Which council committees would you like to sit on and why?
Thank you for the question. The last question I ended by saying we spend $6 million on weed abatement. We only get a chance to cut those vacant lots twice during the cutting season. Yet we spend less than 1% of the budget towards our children, and that's towards education as well as all of our youth programs. And so I would like to sit on the Economic Development, Finance, and Budget Committee. for the purpose of being able to help make sure the funds are being allocated properly and making sure that we tighten our belt and use the money effectively to address the needs of our people, of all the people in the district as well as the city. The other committee I would like to be a part of is the Committee of Education. It's very seldom talked about, but I would like to be on that committee. I would like to chair that committee, and I would like to breathe new life in that committee and use it to educate not so much, children during public school time, but educating children and adults beyond just school time, after school programs, summer camp programs, things like that, as well as educating our seniors in things that they need to know. I developed a nonprofit organization back in 2004 called Charity in Action, and we provide that type of education to young and old, helping them understand the things that they need to know in order for them to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. And I would like to breathe new life into the education committee and use it for that same purpose. And I would also like to be on the transportation committee and be able to help us move our city forward in that particular area. Our lack of transportation hinders a lot of people from getting to the job that they need in order to be citizens and do what they need to do for their families. And so we need to focus more attention on transportation, and I would like to serve on that committee as well.
I hope there are some committees left after we finish up here. One committee that I would like to serve on is public improvement and beautification. I think it's important that you live in a place that you can be proud of, and parks are a huge part of that, even when you talk about fitness, health, and wellness. Another committee that I would like to be a part of is economic development, because I would like to serve as a champion for District 2 so that we can have the right type of businesses coming, and not just businesses coming, but also staying. And also transportation, because I realize that that's important, especially in certain parts of our district. I actually had a conversation with an older lady who had to walk to Village Market just because there are certain areas where we don't have particular bus routes. So I would definitely love to be involved and engaged in those conversations so I can serve as an advocate for our district. Thank you.
Same question.
If given the opportunity, I would like to serve on public safety. Public safety handles a lot of the things that maybe people immediately think fire and police, which are of course very, very important, but it also deals with things like liquor licenses and things of that nature. I would, aside from public safety, I would like to serve on the PIC committee, Public Beautification and Improvement. We need a cleaner city. I don't know about y'all, but holiday time is around the corner, and the first thing I do is I clean my house from top to bottom because I don't want anybody to see how I live the rest of the year. But we need to do the same thing with the city. There are some opportunities that I think we're missing. The way we can reroute resources so that we have cleaner streets. I've mentioned before that we need to have waste management in place as opposed to just garbage pickup. Why don't we have the lovely little trash cans that, dogs can't knock over, and if you live next to Ruffner Mountain, the critters can't come down and get in? Why don't we have those? Why don't we have an actual recycling plan that is maybe a little bit better thought out than the one we have now? So those are the two committees that I would hope to serve on.
The three committees that I have in mind are governmental affairs, economic development, budget and finance, and education. With government affairs, have you guys ever gone to City Hall and tried to get something done? It's extremely difficult, all right? We need much more efficiency in that area so we can bring businesses here. I was talking to a business earlier today, right up the road, and they told me they're still trying to get their liquor license. Well, it took them about 20 hoops to jump through and to talk to 20 different people at City Hall who were supposedly experts who didn't know what the heck was going on themselves to become a business in the first place. So we've got to have more efficient City Hall in order to become a more efficient city overall, right? Economic development, budget, and finance. We need more incentives for businesses to come here. We need more incentives for businesses to stay here. Okay, that means giving tax breaks or giving grants and money to businesses that hire veterans, hire minorities, are environmentally conscious, that build buildings in economically disadvantaged areas to bring that area up for the community. Education, it's the foundation of a strong society. I spoke to the new superintendent the other day. She was very sweet and knowledgeable of what she wants to do and what she has done in the past. She has a great resume. And she and I spoke about the vocational program opportunities here, the certifications that are here. And I was saying, I want to bring more here, and she told me that there's a lot here, and I realized how many there were. I spoke to one of the culinary teachers at Huffman, explaining her program to me. We've got a lot of great certification programs in place, but there isn't enough light that's being shined on them to the students so they can become a part of them, as well as to the community so the community can get involved in those students' lives. When we have people interested in the certification programs and interested in education, they can provide internships, they can provide scholarships, but most of all, they can provide professional development and mentoring opportunities from people these kids might not otherwise interact with. So, education, economic development, budget and finance, and governmental affairs. We got to make this city more efficient. Vote for Jordan. Thank you.
All right, here's our next question. And each candidate, we want you to answer this question. And it's actually a multi-part question. Okay. What do you think of the current changes to the Mayor Council Act? And what changes would you work with the local delegation to implement? Also, will you push for more home rule? And we'll start with Ms. Rafferty on that question.
Thank you. When the proposals popped up about the Mayor Council Act changes, Councilor Abbott and I met with the leadership of both the Senate and the House delegations. And I actually have a list of things that we critiqued what they were proposing to do that we felt was wrong. The Mayor Council Act is outdated. It is the structure of government for every single municipality in the state of Alabama. We are a Class 1 municipality. We are the only Class 1 municipality. We have more home rule than others. Does everyone understand home rule? No. Okay, so basically what that means is the state has taken away a lot of our powers to locally control our own government. Now, in 2009, I was part of a constitutional convention, unofficial, and we rewrote the state constitution, giving home rule back to the state, all of the municipalities in the state of Alabama. But under the structure of the Mayor Council Act, it basically defines the structure of your government and how things are going to, it's two different things, home rule and Mayor Council Act. The edits that were proposed were knee-jerk political cutting of council powers and giving them to the administration or to the mayor, which we found were wrong. When Councilor Abbott, we were asked to actually send a detailed letter on all of the problems. One, they were trying to remove the council's appointing authority to certain boards and agencies and give it all to the mayor. That's not a checks and balances. The Mayor Council Act is supposed to put together a system of checks and balances between the legislature and the administration. A lot of things that are talked about that you want are administrative, and I'd rather the mayor be here to answer a lot of the things that are being said, because it's not within the council's power to affect it. We can champion it if you bring it to us, but we can't necessarily change it. So the Mayor Council Act has to be edited, but we have to sit down and see what the problems are in it. I can post that as well for you to read.
Thank you.
I agree with Councilwoman Rafferty. You all, if you look at the current U.S. government, you see what happens when there's no system of checks and balances. I think the Mayor Council Act is outdated, like much of Alabama's Constitution. It's the longest in the world, not the U.S., but the world. And so it needs to be changes to Alabama's Constitution as well as the Mayor Council Act to fit the times that we live in right now. Now, when it comes to home rule, it makes no sense for people in Mobile to be voting on what's best for Birmingham. It just doesn't make sense. So I think until the local governments have the ability to, citizens of local governments have the ability to vote on things that interest them, then we won't move forward. So I think it's time for constitutional rewrite.
Thank you.
I think that the updates to the Mayor-Council Act that were just passed creates an unbalance of power where the mayor has too much power, I mean, almost complete power, and it really strips the city council's ability to legislate effectively. And then that really goes into home rule. Obviously, this passed because of what has how our council has voted. The state legislature decided to overturn 2 of the items. I think that Birmingham should be able to govern itself. I think that Birmingham should have home rule. However, with that being said, I expect our city council to be responsible with their voting power. And that means no 233% raises, which the state legislature overturned. And I think that it's important that we prove to the state that we can have home rule and we can do it responsibly.
I agree with my colleagues there. Anytime you have a document that's been in existence since 1955, we must make changes just to keep up with the times. We can't live our lifestyle today based on what happened in 1955. The standard of living has changed. Cost has changed. Behaviors have changed. And I agree, home rule is important. We know, even, I think we had a vote come up about minimum wage. And a gentleman from Vestavia, the senator over there, Jack O'Wagner, it's the fact, I might as well call his name, said, no, that's too much. Over there, 6 figures is nothing over across the mountain. Over here, minimum wages, we can't even repair our homes. They're gonna tell us about home rule? I'm sorry, can't go along with that. We need destiny of home rule to benefit us. Thank you.
The Mayor-Council Act, as the other candidates here have mentioned, is an old document. But because we don't have home rule, we can't change ourselves. And so it is what it is. And so we have to work with what we got. Now, what happened last year between the mayor and the current council should not have happened. I served on organization's board called the Gatekeepers of Alabama, which is a group of pastors who decided enough is enough. Let's come together, let's educate ourselves, let's get involved, let's get our congregations involved. We invited both sides of the debate to come and sit down with us. We listened to the pros and cons from both sides. I walked away knowing that it was a fix to a problem that could have been solved simply by the mayor and the council working together. They don't work together. And so to solve the problem, they changed it at the state level to give the mayor more control so that he can do things that the council wouldn't allow him to do. And it was an overreach, in my opinion, on the mayor's part or whoever was behind that at the state level. And it's not people in Mobile, it is the local Jefferson County delegation that did that to us. And so I would advocate for reversing that, and I would work with the legislation, or with the legislators, the Jefferson County legislators, to reverse that. Now, as far as home rule, it doesn't make sense that someone else is dictating to us how to run our house. But it is what it is. Until we change it, that's what we're gonna have to work with. So we have to work with the mayor, we have to work with the Jefferson County legislative delegation in order to move things forward. We've got to move forward together, and we need to be on one accord. And I believe when you communicate in such a way that people understand what's right, I believe everybody will get on board, including Jabo.
As your future city councilwoman, I would review the I would definitely review the current mayor council act because there definitely needs to be checks and balances in place. And in regards to home rule, I am in support of it, and over the next 4 years, I would work with our legislators so that we can work towards a solution.
Thank you.
I'm glad we all agree that there has to be checks and balances. But there's also something called personal responsibility. And I am not thrilled about the changes to the Mayor Council Act, but the behavior that led up to it, I'm not thrilled with that either. And having worked on that hallway with the current council, there was 1 year that I could count on both hands how much new legislation actually got passed between the patting on the back and the long diatribes and the I'm going to speak for my 3 minutes no matter what. And who suffered for that? We did. So if we don't like what the outcome was, which is somebody else had to come into our yard and break up the fight, then perhaps we maybe need to make some changes. I know there's some room to improve on the Mayor Council Act, but just like every other law, it can work both ways. Laws are passed and laws are amended every day. And yes, this is an old document, but so is the Constitution, and we still live by that. So sometimes it's just who's working with the material that's in front of them.
Yep, right.
So, now that I've just lost track, thank you.
My bad.
Yeah, the bottom line is, it's not always the document. If you're given a recipe and it doesn't turn out the way you want it, sometimes it's just you. So on August 22nd, let's fix that.
I've got to admit, I definitely agree with a lot of what everyone said up here. There is a lot of personal responsibility to it. Sometimes it's the cook, not the recipe. I think I believe in checks and balances too, and you don't want one person or one group of people to have too much power. That should be divided, and the people should have a say in what goes on. So I hope the changes that have been made to the Mayor Council Act recently will force the mayor and the city council to actually work together. But God, it's time we have an adult in the room. Right now we have children bickering, and you can't get anything done. You can't get anything done when you're constantly, patting each other on the back, and making legislation that doesn't actually do anything except say, hey, we're going to do this, but you don't have any authority to because the state doesn't allow you to on the topic of home rule. So when the city tries to make a minimum wage increase that goes into effect in 2 weeks instead of doing it gradually over time where the state might be more considerate of the option, the state's going to shut it down. So we have to be willing to work with the state, to negotiate with the state. You need someone that can mediate. You need somebody that can understand those people on the side of the state that have worked with them before, like I have. The Dillon Rule gives the state almost absolute authority over what the city can do. We have to work with Montgomery on behalf of Birmingham for the best interests of Birmingham. And, that's working also with the mayor, whoever it is that's going to be in office. That means going to these mayor candidate debates. That means talking to all the mayor candidates, whether you agree with them or not. I see one of them here right now. Where are the others?
Here's one over here.
Thank you for showing up. What I'm saying is you've got to be able to work with the mayor even if you don't necessarily agree with him. Okay? You've got to be able to work with these other city council candidates regardless of whether or not you agree with them. We have to work together in order to build our city. That means working with the state, that means working with the region, and that means working as a city. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we've got one more from the list, and we're going to ask everybody that, and that'll take us up to time for opening the floor. This one is another question from a resident, which is how much would you travel outside the state to what events and why? And we'll start on this end with Mr. Thompson and go the other way.
Short answer, I wouldn't. I really don't find it necessary to travel to all these conferences, especially if I can use modern technology and Skype myself in, go to a webinar. $30,000 spent in a year alone just for travel to bring something back to the city, but I don't feel like we have much to show for it. Now that's not a ding on the incumbent necessarily, that's a ding on everyone in city council and in local government. We need to be able to cut back on our spending and focus on home, right? There's not there's a lot here that needs to be fixed before we travel to other places to try to figure out why. So if I can attend an online seminar, or if I can make a phone call and get something done, I would much rather do that than spend money on that. What I won't do is, I won't spend money that's not necessary to be spent, and I'll make sure that if I do have to spend money, I'll get constituents' viewpoints on it beforehand. And after I spend the money, I will line item it so every citizen knows what that money has been spent on. I also won't spend a ton of money on a cell phone bill, just saying.
So I have a differing view. I don't need to travel a lot, but there are instances working on council where you do have to travel, and that's just the fact of the matter. When I worked for the District 2 office, I traveled to 4 conferences. Each time, I can safely say I brought something back. Each time, I had a clear itinerary, knew what I was going for. It was attached to a project and a purpose. And when I came back, anybody who wanted to question me on it got an earful because I came back with plenty. One example of that is when I attended NLC in 2010, I brought back the Bank On initiative. Bank-Ons are, they started out in San Francisco, they're all over the country, and what they do is they help underbanked individuals get back into the banking system, get better control of their money, and get out of the check cashing stores. It was launched while I worked in the District 2 office. I left it to the powers to be. It didn't go so well, but it's going to be relaunched by the end of the year. I'm working with banking professionals to get that back on track. I also attended ICSC, which every person on city council is actually a member of. It's the International Council of Shopping Centers. And what that is an opportunity to go to the regional and to the international conference and tell people about what is so special about District 2. And I've done both. I've attended the ICSC in Atlanta, and I've also attended the International in Nevada. And I got back some real information that we needed to know about what businesses think of Birmingham and why they will or will not come here. So there are instances where you really do need to travel because sometimes you get so used to your surroundings, you need that fresh blood. But not to the tune of $98,000 all total. That's ridiculous. In some instances, I actually paid half the bill myself. So, there you have it.
So my motto is city before self, which is a huge part of the reason why I chose to run for city council. And with that being said, if it's something that's going to benefit District 2 or benefit the city as a whole, I definitely want to be able to travel to gain that information. I found that a lot of times when you do get an opportunity to visit different conferences, you can learn a lot and you can bring a lot to your city. However, with the way that technology is set up now, if there's an opportunity where I can Skype or I can stream live as we're doing right now, I would definitely do so. So I think it has to make sense.
I definitely would not travel unless it was absolutely necessary, and in some instances it will be, simply because as the representative, you want to do the best job that you can for your constituents. Serving on the boards of several nonprofit organizations for over 15 years, 20 years, even though we have very tight budgets and hardly enough money to go around, we still have to travel at times to events in order to glean, to learn what the best practices are in other places where they're doing it better than us. And you bring that information back, but you keep it to a minimum. And then you have to weigh that against what else is going on. And so if the money is not there to do it, then you don't do it. But if you can bring something back that would benefit the city, benefit the district, yes, do that. But when you go, you don't have to stay in the 5-star hotels. You can stay in the 2-star. They're just as good. And so there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it.
That's right.
And it should be a minimum, but when you do go, you can do that in a frugal way. And that's what I would do as your representative. Lawrence Conway,
I didn't tell you very much about myself as far as what I did in the past, but I was a school administrator. And It was my responsibility to evaluate everyone on my staff. Okay? And if you evaluate a person and they seem to be ineffective in a certain area, it is my responsibility to bring that person up to par. Travel with the cause, we'll have to do it. When I recommend you're a weak Mrs. X in this area, there's a conference in XYZ town, I want you to go. And bring back some information. And I hate those conferences. Because you work. You have to work on those things. You go to the conference, you may get a chance to go eat, come back and go over your notes, start over again the next morning. It's not a pleasure trip. You demand that you're coming back to make improvements. And I want to see it. If I go anywhere as a city council person, it's for a purpose. We have a problem here in Birmingham, and there's a solution in Chattanooga, maybe over there in Memphis. But travel with a purpose, yes. To a minimum. It would not be abusive, I promise you. That's what Tyrone was saying.
All right, ma'am, what did you just say about travel? I thought it was
Well, in regards to schools, he said go to the city XYZ. We don't have to go far because Mount Brook, Vestavia, Hoover are ranking the highest in the state as far as the outcomes for their students. Whereas, in Birmingham, it's pitiful.
Yeah, sorry to call you out, but I could not agree more with what you just said. We have a lot of municipalities in our area that are 10 minutes away and not $10,000 away that are very effective in what they're doing in terms of government. I think that we can learn a lot from our neighbors instead of learning a lot from our international friends. One thing that's always surprised me about travel that's funded by taxpayer dollars is that there is no accountability after the fact. It's, yeah, I came back and I know all this stuff. All right, well, there should be a report published, made available to the public. Your trip was funded by taxpayer dollars. And I think that, we have to be better stewards of our taxpayer dollars, and that starts by learning from our neighbors and not our international friends.
I'm glad that subject. May I do a rebuttal, please? Sorry.
So I do think travel is necessary sometime. I recently went to Las Vegas with my job and met with some other directors of risk management, and I got an opportunity to learn some good things that bring back to Birmingham, but also share some things with them. I don't think that you should just be traveling to travel. Like Hunter said, if you do travel, you need to come back with some information, and not just information that you keep to yourself, but that you share with the citizens of Birmingham. So like I said, I think it's important because you get a chance to get new ideas, but at the same time, sometimes you have to travel. Mount Brook, Hoover, and other school systems, they're doing well. But in order to create change, you can't really take what they're doing over here and bring over here because the circumstances is totally different. No. So in order to be effective, you always have to consider the circumstances and the things that you're dealing with. So it's good there, but if there's a city that compares culturally and just different issues, then it may be best to go there, but you definitely need to come back with something to share. And I feel like for me, if you do travel, you need to come back with some project that you're trying to implement. That's just me. But let's just be on travel.
And just for clarity really quick, each council office is allocated a specific, I think it's $16,000 a year for travel. Some counselors have manipulated their office budget to do that excessively. But for this counselor, that has not happened. Also to rebut, or not to rebut, but to reply, I agree about the frugality, because that's the biggest struggle is they try to book you into these hotels and you know you can find a better price. Or the travel, I schedule everything myself instead of a travel agent to try to cut the dollars. Okay, as a counselor, you sit on state and federal committees, especially National League of Cities, which meets 3 times a year. So as a representative of the city on these committees, you have to go to the meetings. There's no Skyping. So you do have levels of travel. What has developed, especially on my trips to DC, I've met with the Transit Association for our bus transit system. I went as an advocate, a lobbyist for the mayor. I always go over everything I'm doing with the mayor when I'm going on these trips because they're for a specific purpose or program that we're working on. Birmingham Port, the creation of our shipping port in the western section of Birmingham. That came after successive, I was the only representative from Birmingham attending those meetings. The only one in Washington, D.C. ICSC, we brought back the community reinvestment policy, of which the administration still won't implement, but it's where when we give out economic incentives, a certain percentage of profit or a certain percentage of the profit after debt service is returned back to the city to pay for school programs or to pay for parks and rec. Priority-based budgeting. The only way I could learn about that was to go to the school. It's not something I could do. However, I will tell you, I have hauled all these municipalities that are around Birmingham to Auburn, Alabama to learn how to do economic development. So we do work locally, but sometimes you also have to travel, but you need to do it responsibly.
Thank you. Okay, folks, we're going to get some questions from the live audience. So, who wants to jump in? Carlos, I know you don't live in 2, do you?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear what you guys say.
All right, so my question is for the entire panel, but beginning with Councilor Kim Rafferty. I just want to know why you did not support the sanctuary city legislation, and to the other candidates, what are you all thoughts on Birmingham becoming a sanctuary city, something that many people fall so hard for?
Councilor, go ahead.
Actually, if you were there, I did vote for the resolution that was before the council. However, that resolution was an empty piece of paper. That meant nothing. I'm still waiting to see that document, and once I see that document, I'll consider it. Because one, we are limited by home rule. We can only do so much. We're also limited by the federal government. The mayor did implement the policy that came out of the Supreme Court ruling with Arizona that said that municipalities are not required to enforce or do the job of the federal government when it comes to immigration law. That was one resolution this city offered. That was well within our legal limits of the city. But I did vote yes for that document that was put before me because do you know what it said? It said that the people of the city of Birmingham do not discriminate and we treat each other equally. Now, duh. So therefore, I did support that legislation and I did vote yes because I believe you and the other gentleman in the audience actually gave a big sigh of, oh my God, she voted for it. Well, if you read it, you would have supported it.
Not correct.
So when it comes to sanctuary cities, for me, I'm in favor of them. I think that people should have a place to go and not be discriminated against or attacked because of a specific belief or their race. For me, I think we're all in this together. It's going to take everybody doing their part to make sure that everybody's successful. I also think that everybody has their own talent, skills, and abilities. So who knows what immigrant could bring to the table. So for me, I'm with sanctuary cities.
You know, several times tonight we have brought up the issue of crime. I think that the last thing we need to do with our overstretched and understaffed Birmingham police officers is have them looking around for people that are or are not legal immigrants. That is not the job of the Birmingham police, nor should it be the job of the Birmingham police. That is the job of the federal government. I do think that it's important when we look at sanctuary cities to make sure that we're not excluding ourselves from any funding whatsoever from the federal government, because we must have federal funding for our school system. We must have federal funding for our police department. We must have federal funding for just about all of our city functions. So we should look at it in a way that we will not discriminate. We will not revert to Birmingham in 1960. We're Birmingham in 2017, but we also need to make sure that we don't limit ourselves in terms of federal funding.
Yes, Tyrone Williams will support sanctuary city. Okay? Simple.
To answer that question, let me first say that I do not advocate for discrimination in any shape, form, nor fashion. And I don't believe that the police should be pursuing illegal immigrants. There's too much other crime that's going on in our cities. While at the same time, we are a nation of laws, and I believe in obeying the laws. Even if it's a law that I don't particularly like, I believe that we should obey the law, and I would advocate for us obeying the law.
Well, the thing that I love about District 2 is that it is so diverse, and you can tell just by looking at us.